Did you know that on any given day, over 80,000 people are locked up in UK prisons? This staggering number is a reflection of a system that has been stretched to its limits, struggling to cope with the sheer volume of inmates. The issue of overcrowding in prisons is not just a statistic, it's a reality that has profound implications for everyone involved. That's more than the entire population of Canterbury crammed behind bars. Imagine an entire city, with all its hustle and bustle, suddenly confined within the walls of a prison. The comparison is stark and serves to highlight the magnitude of the problem we are facing. This isn't just about numbers, it's about human lives and the conditions they are subjected to. Our prisons are bursting at the seams, a powder keg of overcrowding, violence and despair. The overcrowded conditions mean that inmates are often housed in spaces that were never designed to accommodate such large numbers. This leads to a host of issues, from increased tension and violence among inmates to the spread of diseases. The lack of personal space and privacy can have severe psychological effects, exacerbating mental health issues and making rehabilitation even more challenging. This isn't just a problem for the people inside, it affects every single one of us. The ripple effects of an overburdened prison system extend far beyond the prison walls. Families are torn apart, communities are destabilized, and the financial burden on taxpayers is immense. The cost of maintaining such a large prison population is staggering, diverting funds that could be used for education, healthcare, and other essential services. The current situation is a far cry from the principles of rehabilitation and reform that our justice system is meant to uphold. Prisons were originally intended to be places where individuals could reflect on their actions, receive education and training, and ultimately reintegrate into society as productive members. However, the reality is that the overcrowded conditions make it nearly impossible to provide the necessary support and resources for true rehabilitation. Instead, we're facing a crisis of capacity, with far too many inmates crammed into spaces never designed to hold them. The physical infrastructure of many prisons is outdated and inadequate, unable to meet the demands of the current population. This not only compromises the safety and well-being of inmates, but also puts immense pressure on prison staff, who are often overworked and under-resourced. The consequence is stark, soaring rates of violence, rampant drug use, and a system that seems to trap people rather than offer them a second chance. The environment within these overcrowded prisons can be incredibly volatile, with frequent outbreaks of violence and unrest. The prevalence of drugs and other contraband further complicates efforts to maintain order and provide a safe environment for both inmates and staff. It's a crisis that demands our attention, our empathy, and most importantly, our action. Addressing the issue of prison overcrowding requires a multifaceted approach, including policy changes, investment in rehabilitation programs, and a shift in societal attitudes towards incarceration. We must advocate for alternatives to imprisonment for non-violent offenders, support re-entry programs that help former inmates reintegrate into society, and push for reforms that prioritize rehabilitation over punishment. Only then can we hope to create a justice system that truly serves the needs of all its citizens. The numbers paint a grim picture. Our prisons are overflowing and the situation is only getting worse. But why is this happening? What factors have led to such a dramatic increase in the prison population? England and Wales have seen a staggering rise in their prison population. Since the early 1990s, the number of incarcerated individuals has increased by 80%. This isn't just a statistic, it's a reflection of deeper societal issues. The reasons behind this surge are multifaceted. Economic disparities, social inequalities, and changes in legislation have all played a part. The introduction of tougher sentencing laws and a shift towards punitive measures over rehabilitation have contributed significantly. Meanwhile, Scotland's prisons are running at 140% of their intended capacity. This means that for every 100 beds, there are 140 inmates. The overcrowding is not just a number, it's a daily reality for those living and working in these facilities. How did we get here? One factor is the rise in longer prison sentences handed down by courts. Over the past few decades, there has been a noticeable shift towards harsher penalties. Judges are handing out longer sentences for crimes that previously might have resulted in shorter terms or alternative forms of punishment. Add to that a backlog of court cases, meaning people are stuck in limbo, often on remand, for months or even years before their trials even begin. This backlog is a result of an overburdened legal system, with too few judges and too many cases. The delays not only prolong the uncertainty for the accused, but also contribute to the overcrowding in prisons. This isn't just a recent blip, it's a trend that has been building for decades, putting immense strain on a system already struggling to cope. The prison population has been steadily increasing, and with it, the challenges of managing such a large number of inmates. The infrastructure, resources and staff are all stretched to their limits. The result? A system that is failing both those incarcerated within it and the society it's meant to protect. Overcrowded prisons lead to deteriorating conditions, increased violence and limited access to rehabilitation programs. This not only affects the inmates but also has broader implications for public safety and social stability. If we are to address this crisis, we need to look at comprehensive reforms that go beyond just building more prisons. We need to address the root causes of crime, invest in rehabilitation, and rethink our approach to sentencing and incarceration. Overcrowding doesn't just mean less space, it breeds a pressure cooker environment where tensions run high. The lack of personal space and privacy exacerbates feelings of frustration and anger among inmates. This environment is a breeding ground for violence, as minor disputes can quickly escalate into serious altercations. The constant noise, lack of sleep, and the ever-present threat of violence create a highly stressful atmosphere for everyone involved. Assaults on prison staff have skyrocketed in recent years, with many officers reporting feeling unsafe at work. The stress and danger of the job have led to high turnover rates, leaving prisons understaffed and further exacerbating the problem. Many officers suffer from PTSD and other mental health issues as a result of their work environment. The lack of adequate training and support for staff only adds to the challenges they face daily. Inmates, too, are at risk. Self-harm and suicide rates are alarmingly high, a clear indication of the mental health crisis within our prison system. Many inmates suffer from untreated mental health conditions, and the lack of adequate healthcare services only worsens their plight. The isolation and hopelessness felt by many prisoners can lead to desperate actions with tragic consequences. This is a tragic reflection of the desperation and lack of hope that pervades many of our prisons. The environment is often dehumanizing, stripping individuals of their dignity and sense of self-worth. Rehabilitation programs are scarce, and opportunities for education and personal development are limited. This lack of support and opportunity makes it difficult for inmates to envision a better future for themselves. Drugs, easily smuggled in and difficult to control in overcrowded conditions, fuel a vicious cycle of addiction and violence. The availability of drugs within prisons undermines efforts to rehabilitate inmates and creates a dangerous environment for both prisoners and staff. Drug addiction often leads to further criminal behavior, both within the prison and upon release, perpetuating the cycle of incarceration. The financial cost is also staggering. Taxpayers are footing a bill of over £3 billion a year to keep the system afloat, a figure that continues to rise. This money is spent on maintaining overcrowded and outdated facilities, rather than investing in solutions that could reduce recidivism and improve outcomes for inmates. The economic burden on society is immense, and the current system is unsustainable in the long term. This money could be better spent on education, healthcare, or indeed, more effective rehabilitation programs. Investing in community-based initiatives and preventative measures could reduce the number of people entering the prison system in the first place. By addressing the root causes of crime, such as poverty, lack of education, and mental health issues, we can create a more just and effective system. The focus should be on rehabilitation and reintegration, rather than punishment and isolation. Section 4. Beyond Bars. Unraveling the roots of the crisis. To truly understand the crisis in our prisons, we need to look beyond the bars. Many factors contribute, from poverty and social inequality to a lack of mental health support and inadequate education opportunities. A significant proportion of the prison population is therefore non-violent offences, often related to drug addiction. These are individuals who, with the right support, could be contributing members of society rather than languishing behind bars. While the government has acknowledged the need for reform, their efforts have been piecemeal and insufficient. We need a more holistic approach, one that addresses the root causes of crime rather than simply reacting to its consequences. Section 5. A new blueprint building a system that works. The good news is that there are proven solutions. Investing in rehabilitation programs that address education, job training, and mental health is crucial. These programs not only reduce reoffending rates, but also give people the tools they need to turn their lives around. For non-violent offenders, particularly those struggling with addiction, alternative sentencing options like community service or drug rehabilitation programs can be far more effective than incarceration. This isn't about being soft on crime, it's about being smart on crime. By breaking the cycle of reoffending, we can create a safer society for everyone. Section 6, time for action, securing our future, one sentence at a time. The state of our prisons is a reflection of our values as a society. Are we content to lock people up and throw away the key, or do we believe in redemption and second chances? Addressing this crisis requires a collective effort. We need to demand better from our elected officials, pushing for reforms that prioritize rehabilitation over retribution. We can all play a part by supporting organizations that work with ex-offenders, challenging stereotypes and advocating for a fairer, more humane justice system. The time for action is now. The future of our communities depends on it.